Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is the weekly media briefing and public health update with Montgomery County Executive Marc Elrich. I'm Lorna Virgili, Hispanic Public Information Officer, and joining us today is Dr. James Bridgers, who is the Director of the Department of Health and Human Services. Mr. Sean O'Donnell, Assistant Chief of Public Health Services, Dr. Keisha Davis, Health Officer for the county, and Dr. Earl Stoddard, Assistant Chief Administrative Officer. Our special guest today is Montgomery County Public School Superintendent, Dr. Thomas Taylor. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Good afternoon, Mr. County Executive. How are you?
Okay, it's in case anybody wondered whether something dramatic was going on and that's why I was late. No, nothing dramatic, just a weekly battle with Microsoft. We could not get things to close out and to open up, so that's where I was, trying to master the art of getting it to work right. So good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us. Next Tuesday is the first day of school for 2025-2026 school year. And I'm pleased that Dr. Taylor has taken a few minutes out of his busy schedule to join us today. This is Dr. Taylor's second school year as MCPS superintendent, and I've enjoyed working with him since he started last year. And I've been impressed by his leadership and the direction he's taking with MCPS. I look forward to joining Dr. Taylor this Saturday at the backup school fair at Westfield Mall from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. The event will feature free music, entertainment, health screenings, and information about resources in our school system. Parents who haven't gotten the children up to date on required immunizations can get the necessary vaccinations at the fair as well. Starting at 9 a.m., free transportation is going to be provided from 5 high schools. This is an important event for MCPS students and their families. I was a school teacher for 17 years in the county before I joined the county council, and I remember how much work and preparation go into the start of the new school year. Personally, I used to dread putting together my outside the room blackboard, or it was the bulletin board that was outside my classroom. I'm not an artist, and it was my least favorite thing to do. Teachers are getting to know new students, principals and administrators are orienting new teachers and parents to their schools. Bus drivers are learning new routes, and it involves a lot of logistics and coordination, and it takes an entire summer of planning to start the year smoothly. One change that I've been very happy to see is that MCPS has updated its cell phone regulations to ensure a more focused and productive learning environment. I've been advocating for in-school cell phone policy changes for several years now, and I'm pleased to see these new policies enacted. I was actually stunned in some of my visits to school to see students playing on their phones during lessons. I couldn't believe that it was being allowed. So I'm glad that it's gone. Elementary and middle school students will now be required to keep their phones turned off and put away during classes, lunchtime, and transitions. Some middle schoolers will be part of a pilot program that keeps their phones locked away for the day, but protected from theft. High school students will still have the flexibility to use their phones during lunch and between classes, but not when they're supposed to be learning. These efforts will help students focus on classwork and not on their devices. I'm now going to turn it over to Dr. Taylor to provide more details about the back-to-school preparations and expectations for the upcoming school year. So it's all yours, Dr. Taylor.
Well, thank you, Mr. County Executive, and what a pleasure it is to join you for the second time at this broadcast and this meeting. We have a lot to be very excited about. We are very excited that in the next week, the Maryland State Department of Education will announce our state testing results, and you'll see some improvements in MCPS for the first time in a long time across the board in a lot of different areas. And we really hope that this is us turning a corner in MCPS and really heading in the right direction and showcasing for our community a great return on their investment. We're doing a couple things differently, and I got to tell you, Mr. Elrich, you did a great job of taking a lot of my talking points because you're very informed about our back to school fair and our cell phone updates, but we've got a couple other things in the queue that we're really excited about. This Monday, we are having a special day called Transition Day, just for our kindergartners, sixth graders, and ninth graders, and for some of our third graders who are in a split level elementary school environment. to welcome them to school before all of the other students get there. There's new friends to make, new building layouts to discover, new expectations, new teachers, and we want to provide that learning environment in a more positive way without the distraction of a lot of other students. This is not a new idea. This is not something new that's being workshopped in Montgomery County. This is commonplace in a lot of other places, but it is new for Montgomery County. And it also gives us an opportunity to test run our buses and our kitchens and a lot of our operations. As you mentioned before, we've been spending the summer dealing with a lot of challenges as we prepare for the new start of the school year. Some are positive, some are not so positive. I'm going to highlight both. We have a ton of maintenance issues that we deal with every summer to make sure that our schools are up to snuff. And there's a lot of infrastructure needs in MCPS. You name it, whether it's major systems like plumbing or HVAC or just classroom cleaning, we get it all done, and it's a lot to do. We're still going to be working through the weekend to make sure that we have a great start on Monday for our 6, 9, and kindergartners, and for everybody else on Tuesday. We have some new policies in place that I want to highlight. As you mentioned, the cell phone policy, we've updated our student code of conduct, which requires a restorative justice component as well as consequence measures that are being instituted this year and realigned. We've updated our grading and reporting practices. You may recall this article from the Bethesda magazine last year that talked about MCPS losing its edge. We took all of those words to heart, took that very seriously, and feel like we've got a different approach this year that raises expectations and supports for young people. We have a new approach to emergency response called the Standard Response Protocol that parents and students will learn an awful lot about this fall, as well as our educators and school staff. And it standardizes across the county our methodology on how we respond to emergency situations to make our schools safer. These are all things that we heard time and time again from our community and from our families this fall. We made the appropriate investments thanks to the county's budget and making sure that our schools are safe, welcoming, and inclusive for all. I do want to highlight just a couple other things very briefly before we turn it over to Q&A. We made a pretty significant investment in special education last year, and I'm proud to say that almost all of our special education positions that we added have been filled. We're in the high 90s in terms of our fill rate for staffing. We still have a few more on the paraprofessional side to fill. We're in the high 80s in terms of percentage fill rate for our paraprofessionals, but we added a lot of staff. And this wasn't to decrease class size or to improve services, but this was to transparently staff to the levels in which we've been priorly communicating to our community. And we're hoping to add that continuity of service for our students with disabilities at a high level. Families can also find a lot of resources, and we'll also be sending resources home for our newcomer and immigrant families to make sure that they also feel welcome and comfortable in Montgomery County schools. We love our kids, we love our families, and we want to make sure that they have all the resources they need to be successful and be supported by their local community. I'm so proud to say that there are a lot of great teammates on this call, not just the county executive's office, but in our DHHS. Dr. Bridgers and I have been working collaboratively over the last several weeks to address a critical backlog in our background check process. I'm delighted to share that MCPS is a safe place to send your children. Every employee has been fingerprinted, and even though we're going back through our employees and making sure that there's additional layers of security and that there's additional screenings that are being done, MCPS is a safe place for our kids. And even though we've had some structural issues that we're trying to address, we are addressing them, and we are addressing them at the speed in which our community expects. Mr. County Executive, I appreciate the support, I appreciate the time, and we look forward to seeing everybody at our Back to School Fair on Saturday.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate the work you're doing. There's probably nothing more important that we do in this county than educate the children, because if we don't get this right, we don't have a lot of hope for where the things go in the future. And so doing it right, doing it well, those are things that are going to make a long-term lasting difference. And your leadership has, been a welcome breath of fresh air.
Thank you.
And I know you've been surprised by a few things.
Unpleasantly so sometimes, but that's okay. That's why we're here, and we're all Team Montgomery County to make our community a better place to live, work, and learn.
We'll get this done.
Yes, sir.
So another less
Thank
good
you.
news.
Thank you, gentlemen. Let's open it up for Q&A.
that's right.
Mr. County Executive with the Superintendent. And I see members of the media, remember to raise your hands. And I see Suzanne Pollock, Montgomery Community Media. You're the first one. Good afternoon, Suzanne.
Oh, great. Thanks. Dr. Taylor, when you said that all employees have been fingerprinted, you mean the ones, even the backlog that you had from that were pointed out in the Inspector General's report? And if so, how were you able to do it so fast when you were behind years?
So we have two critical issues that we're trying to address. We do fingerprint all of our employees, but not all of them had been enrolled in a program called WrapBack, which is a continuous check program. We are in the process of going back and addressing our employee class that was hired prior to 2019 to make sure that they are up to date and that they are enrolled in that WrapBack program. It's going to take us several months. They still have been fingerprinted. They still have been cleared. They've still met legal requirements. But this is that extra layer of security that's absolutely critical. And it's something that our community expects, and it's something that we're going to follow through with fidelity. I want to thank the Inspector General for elevating this. I'm not sure that I would have caught this without her help. I've uncovered an awful lot over the last 400 days. But this was a bit of a shock to the system, and it's great to have partners who are watching to make sure that we're doing the right thing and keeping our kids safe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Jeannie Bixby, Bethesda Today. Good afternoon, Jeannie.
Good afternoon, Lorna. Hi, Dr. Taylor. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit to, we're hearing from some parents that they're a little confused what's clear between, like what the split is between staff that has been cleared under the new background checking process and who hasn't. Do you know what that split will look like before the first day of school? And is there a plan that you're able to share with the public about how you're addressing that split?
Yes, everybody can take some confidence in knowing that all school staff have gone through a background check and a fingerprint process. Whether they've had the additional screening mechanism of WrapBack or the Child Protective Services additional screening layer, we have several thousand that we are trying to address in a workforce of 30,000. We do have a supervision plan to make sure that anyone is not fully cleared to our standards is being supervised to a different level. But ultimately, we will have all of our employees rebadged, and the badges used to be horizontal, and now they are vertical. To show when we have cleared all of our employees. We're going to be going school to school using mobile teams to go and verify every employee in the district. That's what's going to take us a while. We have 5 mobile teams that we're going to start making the rounds the second week of school, and just going through every employee record just to make sure that we're clear.
Thanks so much. And just a quick follow-up. I know that you're personally very passionate about improving trust between the school system and stakeholders, and, whether it be the council or parents and families, kind of in wake of this OIG report, kind of what are your hopes to kind of restore that trust going forward?
Well, I don't think we're at the end of the road in finding things that disappoint us with our systems. The one thing that I hope that I bring as part of my leadership in making corrections is that I will absolutely own the things that we have done as a system that need to be improved. I will put out regular updates when things need to be improved as to what the process looks like when we need to make an improvement. And what we're going to track with fidelity to make sure that what we say is getting done is actually getting done. We uncovered a handful of things in the past year that just have been real big disappointments, whether it was our employee benefits fund that was being underfunded, or whether it was how we were staffing special education classrooms. We're unpacking things one at a time, and we will address them, and we'll address them with fidelity and with speed. And I got to tell you, for whatever it's worth, I have been pleasantly surprised to see how quick all of our community partners have jumped in to try to help. I haven't hit any roadblocks in trying to move the wheels of government, which sometimes can stall. As a matter of fact, I've experienced quite the opposite.
Gotcha. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jeannie. David Kaplan, Fox 5 DC. Good afternoon, David. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you so much. I have one question for Mr. Elrich and one question for Dr. Taylor. First, for the county executive, clearing of homeless encampments has been a big component. Oh, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can. I think we try to hold that question to when we get to the general questions, but not the school questions.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to let Dr. Taylor get back to work.
Understood. Then I will ask my question for Dr. Taylor now, and then I'll ask my question for you after. Dr. Taylor, I'm working on a piece today, just back to school and talking about AI and chatbots and sort of the complexities, the role that those are playing in education policy right now. I know the county has sort of, you all have put some stuff out in terms of policy, but I just wanted to sort of get your perspective on key tenets of all things AI as it relates to education, things that are important to you from a policy perspective on that front.
Absolutely, and I would suggest that we're a little bit behind in this space. Coming from my last district in Virginia, we had artificial intelligence policies and regulations that were in place for a number of years. So coming to Montgomery County, we have a lot of ground to make up in terms of setting up guardrails and guidance, not just for our students, but also for our educators. There's a tremendous gap that we have to close in terms of educator awareness and educator proficiency. And I think the next steps for us are to acknowledge how disruptive this technology, and that's not necessarily a bad term either. The internet was disruptive. VCR technology was disruptive. The pencil was disruptive. Artificial intelligence is also disruptive. And to figure out where this fits into our learning environment, how we leverage the positive pieces while maintaining some guardrails and providing a safe learning environment for our young people. Those are the things that are going to rule the day. But this also has a tremendously exciting opportunity to engage our young people. We introduced a couple things to our principals about a week ago, some different ways to think about mathematics instruction as well as creative writing instruction and classroom lesson planning that I hope really catch fire and inspire our educators to lead with this passion.
And can you just give some insights on how big of a challenge it is to come up with effective and useful policy, given how fast this world is evolving and disrupting, as you said?
Well, I would say from a policy lens, it's not very difficult because our core tenets don't change who we are as a school system or what our goals are and what we're trying to accomplish. Maintaining guardrails that make sense and that are practical really fall maybe more in the regulation space, and those can be amended on a more frequent basis, and we're definitely attentive to that. I think one of the challenges that we're going to face is as a large organization, not just as a school system, how do we build a level of proficiency and a level of understanding at speed and at scale?
Thank you.
Thank you so much, David. Nicole Asbury, The Washington Post. Go ahead.
Hi. Hi, Dr. Taylor. How are you?
Nicole, good to see you.
It's good to see you too.
Or your hand and blank screen.
So I actually wanted to ask you a little bit more about this opt-out process that was ordered by the Supreme Court.
Yes.
I know that there's been a process put in place, but I'm curious from your perspective, I'd like to understand operationally, was this a challenge to implement? And if you could just characterize a little bit more of what that process looked like, that would be really helpful.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm sad that I didn't include this in some of the earlier comments that I made, because this is actually something that could have been construed as a negative, that we're definitely focusing on as a positive and a way to communicate better with our parents and our community. One of the things that our parents ask for all the time is, what is my child learning in the classroom? And if you've ever had this parent moment where you've got your kids sitting across the dinner table and you say, what did you learn at school today? You either got stuff or nothing. And how was your day? Fine. You don't really get a whole lot of depth of information. And so what we've decided to produce is something that I'm calling refrigerator curriculum. Each 9 weeks, we are going to send the topics and the reading list for your child's classes home to you, both in a digital and a paper format, so that you as a parent know what's being talked about in your child's classroom. It's one page, and yes, of course, you can magnet it to your refrigerator and refer back to it, so that when your child says, what'd you learn in school today? And they say nothing, you can say, oh, no, I know you're learning about the pyramids in ancient Egypt, or what have you, whatever the topic du jour is, or whatever the books are that are being read. That being said, that's also part of this Supreme Court decision and opting out. We have a centralized process that when somebody wants to opt out of curriculum based on a religious belief, there's a form that they can fill out, and it is linked to our refrigerator curriculum so that parents can access that with ease, and it takes them to a website where they can fill out this form and make that request, giving a certain period of time so that the teacher and the school staff can respond with an alternate assignment. I will echo, and this was an argument that we made at the Supreme Court, that this is a significant administrative burden. And sometimes we do teach things that run counter to someone's ideas, and that's part of the educational process. And sometimes it's an enriched classroom environment when we introduce new ideas and new thoughts that somebody doesn't necessarily share or believe in. That's the foundation of a civil society. I'm going to tell you that I've got a good feeling. And I'm gonna let you sit with that and tell you that I've got a good feeling about this school year. And on Sunday, we'll drop a video and you'll know exactly what I mean by that. I'm really excited. It's a delight to be back in Montgomery County and to be a part of what we are trying to do. This is a great school system that has a lot of folks who are dedicated, hardworking people who want to make this community a better place. And I just am impressed at every corner. And don't get me wrong, too. I'm a little disappointed to see things like infrastructure decay and systems that have lapsed. But I know that all of those things are fixable. And I have a great deal of optimism looking into this new school year. I'm very pleased that we saw some upward movement in our student performance, and that the state gets to announce that next week. And I hope that gets some coverage too, because I think we're turning a corner as a school system.
Thank you.
Thank
Might be like a Black Eyed Peas reference there.
Or maybe a Flo Rida reference.
Okay, I got you. And then the second question I have for you is
maybe I gave away too much.
Staffing. You mentioned it. You mentioned some of the percentages, and you said that it has increased, which is great to hear. Wanted to know, do you have an approximate amount or amount of how many vacancies you all currently still?
Yeah, sure. It changes by the minute because we are staffing even today and concluding the hiring process for people today. And I wouldn't say that it's improved from last year. I would say that we're right about where we were at the start of the school year last year, which was in the high 90% range going into the start of the school year. I'm very pleased that we're closing the gap on special education vacancies, because traditionally they're very difficult to fill. And very happy with that. We're in the high 80s for our paraprofessional vacancies, which for that classification is also very high. But the fact that we added as many positions as we did and that we're still at this high 90 fill rate is a testament to how strong Montgomery County is viewed, how strong Montgomery County Public Schools is viewed, and that we're still a great place to work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin. Marianne Chassette, Montgomery Community Media. Good afternoon, Marianne.
Good afternoon. Thanks, Dr. Taylor. I know you mentioned the immigrant community and resources for them, but wanted to ask, is there anything new related to that, like new resources or any new considerations being made?
Well, we're definitely sensitive to the ever evolving landscape and making ourselves available. I'm pleased to report that one of the things that we were really paying attention to last year was what our attendance rate was looking like for some of our student populations, and we did not see a really seismic shift in our attendance, which is really positive. We did observe a pretty significant shift during the first Trump administration, going into that first spring of the first Trump administration. But for us, we had stayed relatively consistent, and as if anything, we actually eroded our chronic absenteeism rate by a little bit more than a percentage this year. So proud of that. We're going to be watching those things very closely. We are also going to be watching to make sure that we're connecting people with resources in real time. That's what makes the partnership between county government and schools so important, that there really can't be a dotted line between our agencies, that there really just needs to be a locked arm partnership, and that we're all communicating to make sure that families have access to the resources that they need, that our kids have access to the resources that they need. We've got a great plan to deal with issues as they arise in the moment. Fortunately, we haven't had to respond to a ton yet, but we're ready, and we're ready to do that work with county government.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marianne. And I believe Suzanne Pollack has a follow-up question. Go ahead, Suzanne.
Yes, on a different subject, but I received an email from some people at Goshen Elementary Schools with lots of pictures about how bad mold is there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I was going to, one, are you aware of it? So yes.
Yes.
Is that one of the worst schools? Is it being worked on now?
Yeah, it's definitely on our list, and I would elevate a few more to tell you, because one of the biggest issues that we deal with in the summertime is the humidity and heat in the DMV is significant, and it really taxes our infrastructure in a really meaningful way. Our HVAC situation is not great in Montgomery County Public Schools. We have about 40 of our 230 campuses that we manage. About 40 of them are really on chewing gum and duct tape and really need a lot of support. And the consequence of that is you get things like an uncomfortable learning environment and mold. We're absolutely remediating mold and other situations. It's not uncommon. It's not uncommon for the start of the school year, but it's completely unacceptable for students to work in that space and for educators and school staff to be in that space. So for us, it's a high priority, and yes, it's being remediated across the county in a handful of spots.
Is there one particular school that's particularly bad, or
Goshen's
like
a good one. Last year we had a lot of trouble with New Hampshire Estates, although that one seems to be doing a lot better this year.
Loiterman, I think, also.
Yeah, there's a handful for sure. I will say this. Our school staff don't hide anything. They love to communicate, and they love to communicate with you too. The good news is that they usually copy us on those emails, so they don't keep us in the dark. But it is something that we have to respond to. We appreciate getting a heads up when we know, and we're pretty quick on getting folks out there because we know how scary it can be, and we certainly don't want people to have to show up to work or show up to school and feel as though their safety is at risk.
Thanks.
Thank you, Suzanne. Well, I think that's it. Questions from the media. for Dr. Taylor. It's wonderful. You got a lot of questions, and thank you for joining us today to answer all these inquiries from the members of the media. I believe you might have to depart. You're a busy gentleman these days. And again, thanks for joining us. Mr. County Executive, do you want to say goodbye to Dr. Taylor?
Yeah, I want to say goodbye. I just want to say I appreciate, particularly discussion about the mold at the end. As unpleasant as it is, one of the things that we've been pushing without much success with the council is to increase the size of the capital budget, because these are, projects that we need to undertake to properly maintain the schools. And when you're not increasing the size of the capital budget and the cost of everything goes up because of inflation, it gets harder and harder to keep pace with the things you need to do. And you're experiencing it in spades right now. So I'm glad you brought it up.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Taylor, before you go, I see David Kaplan has his hand up. Is this okay?
Sorry, no, that was for Mr. Elrich. Sorry.
Okay, all right, got
Thanks.
you.
It's
All right.
we're getting there.
Okay, just double checking. All right, thank you, Dr. Taylor, for joining us, and great luck for the beginning of the school year.
Yes.
Mr. County Executive, other topics.
All right. So now we're going to talk about something that's pretty unpleasant, and that's the federalization of DC's police department. We're now week 2. This is the second week of the federal government's takeover of Metropolitan Police Department. More National Guardsmen have been sent from states with Republican governors. By Labor Day, there could be more than 2,000 military troops in the district. Of course, just remember, they're not trained for policing, they're trained for warfare. These actions are horrifying and deeply concerning, and Trump's takeover of DC police is clearly more focused on deporting immigrants than on reducing crime. According to the White House, as of Sunday, more than 40% of the roughly 300 arrests targeted undocumented immigrants. If this effort was actually about public safety in the district, the White House would have restored the $1 billion it removed from the district's budget that would have supported police, firefighters, and city services, but they're not doing that. I want to thank Congressman Jamie Raskin for his joint resolution to end the president's control of the DC's police force. He rightly called it part of a broader plan to militarize and federalize the streets of our cities around America, whose citizens voted against him. The language and words that Donald Trump uses to describe our cities and the people who live in them is nothing new. He's using the same racist stereotypes and tropes that he did when he took out a full-page ad in the New York Times back in 1989, calling for the Central Park Five to be executed for crimes that they did not commit and for which they were eventually exonerated. But Donald Trump knew, without any, facts and without, any examination of the evidence, that they should have been executed. It's a good thing he wasn't in a position to carry that one out. Unfortunately, he's not simply a New York City real estate developer anymore. He's now the president of the United States, and he's causing tremendous harm around the country and in the nation's capital. Some of this came up this last week when we were at the MACO conference. The chaos, confusion, and fear across our state from Trump's decisions was one of the number one topics of conversation at last week's MACO conference. Large and small, urban or rural, every part of the state is being impacted. Baltimore City is experiencing a 50-year low in homicides, and yet Trump is demonizing the residents there with the same mistruths about violent crime as he's doing with the residents of DC. Residents of Western Maryland were denied FEMA reimbursements for their recent catastrophic flooding, areas that are majority Republican and pro-Trump, and he still won't provide FEMA relief for those people. Comptroller Learman reported that 6% of all jobs in our state are federal jobs. $150 billion is tied to the annual federal spending. So far, the state has lost 13,000 federal jobs. Since January, Montgomery County has been impacted the most, and no jurisdiction will be spared the economic ripple effects of these cuts. I was on a panel about the federal impacts with Attorney General Anthony Brown, Commerce Secretary Coker, and Wicomico County Executive Jennifer Giordano. And it was a wide-ranging discussion covering the lawsuits and the legal defense led by the Attorney General's office. and the Commerce Department's goals to diversify and improve our state's economy and the impacts that we're seeing in our local jurisdictions. I shared what we've seen so far and what we expect to get worse. Our employment numbers have dropped about 8,900 jobs since June of 25 compared to last year, a reduction of 1.5%. Those figures do not include all the federal workers who took buyouts or early retirements, since they're still employed and receiving paychecks from the feds until October. Out of the approximately $300 million in federal grant funds that Montgomery County receives, we're projected to see a reduction of about 10% or $30 million. But that doesn't count what could flow down to us through cuts in state funds that aren't directly given to us from the feds. By the end of the year, we believe we could see as many as 40,000, probably a range of 20 to 40,000 county jobs lost, including contractors, nonprofits, and vendors that rely on the federal government, as well as jobs lost to deportations or immigrant workers not showing up for work anymore. For the new budget that's supposed to pass sometime in September or October, the positions that DOJ was trying to cut this year will not appear in the next budget. Those jobs will be gone. I was on a panel with Attorney General Brown and Commerce Secretary Coker, and my Combico County Executive Jennifer Giordano, and it was a pretty wide-ranging discussion. I shared what we've seen so far in Montgomery County and what we expect. Our unemployment numbers have dropped by 8,800 jobs in June of 2025 compared to last year. It's a reduction of 1.5% in jobs. These figures do not include federal workers who took buyouts or early retirement. They're still employed and receiving paychecks that'll end in October. Out of the approximately $300 million in federal grant funds that the county receives, we're projecting a reduction of about 10% or $30 million. But that doesn't count what could flow to the county through cuts to state funds. So that number could get larger. By the end of this year, we expect 20 to 40,000 county jobs could be lost, including contractors, nonprofits, and vendors that rely on the federal government, as well as jobs that are lost to deportations and immigrant workers not showing up for work anymore. For the new budget that's supposed to pass sometime in September or October, the positions that DOJ was trying to cut this year earlier will not appear in the next budget. Jobs will be gone. So if you remember back in the spring, the courts found that the president could not cut jobs that had been appropriated with money from the previous budget. So the mass firings were halted. But the budget that comes to Congress in October is the president's budget. And in the president's budget, those jobs aren't there. And so they won't be cutting with money that's been appropriated. They'll be cutting because they're not appropriating any money in this budget. So we expect a rapid acceleration of job loss come October. And that's assuming, of course, the Republicans can avoid going into a budget battle of their own. There's talk about another government shutdown and continuing resolutions to keep things afloat. So it's anybody's guess when things will get straightened out. But it's not, in any event, we're certainly looking at serious job losses. In a brief notice, Sanity, the Senate, including the Republicans and the committee that oversees NIH, are supporting NIH funding at the current level. All they're going to need is 4 or 5 House Republicans to break ranks and support the NIH funding bill. That would be a glorious victory, not just for NIH, but for all of us, because the research that NIH does on our health and safety is really, really important. And it's a tragedy to think of the losses that could occur if they really are shut down to the degree that the feds are trying to do it. But at least there's a glimmer of hope that at least in the Senate, there's a recognition that this work should not be stopped. All these numbers are sobering, and they don't account for the fear and chaos that's ripping through our communities, especially among our immigrant residents. And we have not yet seen the mass raids of the immigrant communities or work sites. But once again, the Trump administration in the new budget will see $40 billion for ICE, and that $40 billion for ICE is going to let him create his ICE army that will support much more expansive deportation efforts. So do not get comfortable and relax and think this is just a paper tiger and you have nothing to worry about. You have everything you had to worry about last week, last month, last year. It's all there. It's just a matter of him getting the funding in place to carry it out. One point that that I was able to make with the audience at Mako that resonated there was that throughout American history, every new immigrant group were first excluded when they arrived in this country. The Italians, the Irish, the Eastern European people, the Spanish, pretty much anyone who didn't come from England faced discrimination in jobs, discrimination in housing, wasn't welcome. People didn't want the new languages. They didn't want people who didn't speak English. We've been through this before, and we've gotten through it every time. And it's just tragic that there's this group of Americans who don't believe we can get through it now. And it's really, it's really a misunderstanding and a distortion of our own history to walk away from what we should have learned is that people integrate into society and become much more like us than anything else, and that people are afraid of that. Ethnic ghettos were real and nasty aspects of American culture, even into the 60s. I remember visiting cousins in Brooklyn and not being able to walk to this close by pizza parlor to bring back pizza because it wasn't considered safe for people of our kind to walk in that neighborhood. So we go over there in a cart, somebody would run in to get the pizza and somebody would run out and drive back to the neighborhood. So things were much different, and we've had far greater ethnic troubles in our past, and most of the time we've been able to work through them. We don't seem to be able to do that for Hispanic, Latino people, the African and African Caribbean immigrant community, and for our own African Americans who unwilling immigrants, people who did not ask to come here but were forced to come here as slaves. They've never been able to reconcile this country. And this country's never recognized the harm it's done. Now Trump is trying to remove discussions about the harm slavery did from our Smithsonian museums and any place where this information appears. They want to take it out of school books. They just want to erase Hitler history. Sorry about the Hitler slip out, but I was getting there because this is what Joseph Stalin and Adolf Hitler were really good at, was erasing history and rewriting it the way they wanted to tell it. People who are miseducated tend not to function really well, and they tend to be more dangerous. If we're going to have history that teaches people to hate each other and to look down on other people, that is not a prescription for a healthier society. After years on the front lines of civil rights and progress, I did not expect a regression of our nation's morals, values, and principles like we're witnessing now. They've actually talked about going back to pre-World War I America. None of us, or hardly any of us, were alive back then. I could almost safely say none of us were alive back then. It was a pretty horrible, nightmarish scenario where most people lived in poverty. Wages were terrible. There was a tiny middle class. Discrimination against minorities was rampant. Workers had no rights. This is their idea of the America they want to go back to. This is a nightmare America, not the America that we live in today. People need to appreciate that what we've become was the result of a lot of hard work, struggle, and perseverance to make America what it is today. It was not always like this, and it was not always pretty. And I guess what Trump and his friends would like is for us not to know that. While Trump creates divisions and stokes racial fears with his dog whistles, and he pushes back toward a time that was when only straight white Christian men mattered, we're fortunate to have a governor like Wes Moore. His address at the conclusion of Mako on Saturday focused on unity, diversity, hope, and support. His message was simple. In these challenging times, act with urgency and keep delivering for our residents. We can't stop all the madness being led by Trump, but we'll be speaking out and doing what we can to provide information and to put up as many safeguards as we possibly can. Finally, I want to acknowledge the passing of Joe Griffin, Montgomery County's Register of Wills since 1993. At almost 26 years, he's the longest serving elected leader in the county. The county's flag will be at half-staff tomorrow in Joe's honor. As if his death wasn't hard enough on his family, they're dealing also with the recent death of Joe's son, who passed away earlier this year. I want to extend my warmest wishes to the Griffin family and during this extremely hard time for them, and to acknowledge his service to the county while battling through his own health challenges. We're going to be forever grateful for his service to our community. And with that, I'll close for today and I'll take your questions. And I know somebody's been, and actually we're going to go to the health thing first. Then I'll take your questions.
Dr. Davis, Mr. O'Donnell, you want to start? And then I'll make some remarks before turning over to Dr. Stoddard.
Sure. Good afternoon. Thank you, Dr. Bridgers and Mr. County Executive. I do want to highlight, as we are heading into back to school season, just echoing some of the comments that were made earlier by Dr. Thomas and the county, Dr. Taylor and the county executive. We are excited for our kids to be going back to school. We also want to make sure that they are ready. Part of that readiness is making sure that they have all of the required vaccines that they need to enter into school, and want to remind folks that the back to school fair that is happening this weekend, there is also, our vaccinators will be there.
Dr. Davis froze.
So the vaccinators will be there just to continue. We have an aggressive campaign. Go ahead, Dr. Davis. I was just filling in for you. So go ahead, you can continue, please.
It's just still frozen. Do you want to wrap that up, Dr. Bridgers?
Sure, we can provide the information. Mr. O'Donnell, if you have the schools in a location, we can provide that in addition to any of the MCPS supported activities in the community. Mr. O'Donnell, anything else from you regarding our vaccination schedule? Go ahead.
I just had the county executive
Seems-
mentioned that will
Okay,
be at,
Dr. Davis joined us again. Let's see if you're live. And pardon the instability of the internet service today. Dr. Davis?
Thank you, Doc. Zoom is not our friend today. So I want to add, yes, the vaccination clinics are happening this weekend. We would really encourage folks to come out if they need those required vaccines. Those are required in kindergarten and for 7th grade. I also want to remind folks about the things that we need to be preparing our kids for beyond just the books and notebooks. So we want to make sure that their backpacks are ready, but we also want to make sure that they are emotionally ready. And so doing things like ensuring that they're getting good sleep. This week is a good time to start getting them back on that school schedule of getting up early, so that Monday, if you're in the orientation group, or Tuesday for all students, isn't such a hard day. Also starting to have conversations with our kids about anxiety and the things that might be on their mind as they're going back to school. So getting them prepared physically with all of the books, getting their health ready with those needed vaccinations, and getting them ready emotionally and mentally as well as we enter into the school to the new school term. And I will turn it over to Mr. O'Donnell to talk a little bit of where we are with COVID these days.
thank you, Dr. Davis. And just mentioning that we have, if our listeners are trying to make sense of which shots their kids need, of course, we'll let you know when you come out to the clinic. But you can look all of our information up at govaxmoco.com, and that will take you to our immunization page, and it has the information as well as all the locations we'll be at. Just want to say, as we've said previously, COVID is still spreading around. I'm hearing more and more people I know say that they have COVID now. Fortunately for most people, it is a relatively is a less severe illness than it had been in the past. We have seen our state partners have reported an increase in young children, those under 1 year of age, being brought to emergency departments or outpatient centers and being diagnosed with COVID there. And so we just want to remind folks that this affects all ages. It's very hard for the little ones. And the American Academy of Pediatrics just this week they issued their recommendation that children between 6 months of age and 23 months also get a COVID shot. And so it's, we just want to make sure everyone is protected. Those young kids likely haven't never been exposed to COVID before. And so a vaccination is a better way to get that immunity than to get sick. It's also a way to avoid long COVID that does happen to a small, but not insignificant number of people have gotten long COVID. So again, we're recommending those shots.
Excellent.
And to close out the Department of Health and Human Services update, I echo Doctors Taylor and Davis's comments that the Montgomery County Public School system is a safe place to be healthy, to learn, and to grow. And as the director of HHS, I appreciate our senior leadership and our solutions-driven approach. With that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Stoddard for his comments.
Let's go to questions. I think we're running a little long today, so.
Thank you very much. Members of the media, questions? David, you're still here. David Kaplan, Fox 5 DC. Go ahead. Thank you for your patience.
Yeah,
Go
no
ahead.
worries at all. Thank you. Question is for Mr. Elrich. Touched on this, but the removal of homeless encampments has been sort of a critical component of the federal involvement in Washington, D.C. Was curious, has Montgomery County received a number of people experiencing homelessness? If so, how many? And have you had direct conversations with Mayor Bowser about that?
It's complex. We have not received very many. The numbers, I want to say, very small. And I think the district I was in a meeting where there was a discussion about this, and the district is trying to find as many spaces as they can internally to house the people who are in the district and are, being pushed out by the president from the encampment. So they're doing everything they can do to house as many of these folks as they can. And we have not seen a large influx over here. So, so far so good. And I appreciate the work that the mayor's doing to try to handle as much of this internally as she possibly can. The president's folks have not been driving them to the Montgomery County border. They've just been destroying the places where they sleep.
Thank you. And just to follow up on that, I'd be curious of the nature of the broader nature of the conversation you had with the mayor about sort of what are you concerned about, or what did you talk about as it related to Montgomery County and any potential impacts that you all may see regarding what's been going on in DC?
The discussion was just broadly about I think this kind of joint, I think all of us share the sense that, DC has been mischaracterized, and that, the facts about crime in DC are not the facts that actually exist. She's mostly trying to manage as best she can inside of this box and trying to figure out what comes next. There's not much any of us can do to address that. We have our own issues that'll come out of whatever Trump brings down on us locally. There wasn't a lot of discussion of any issues in detail. I think it was a check-in, where are they and what are they dealing with?
Gotcha. And just to finally wrap up, can Montgomery County handle, should there be people experiencing homelessness that are, if entities in Montgomery County are asked to take on some of that, is that something that the county is prepared to do, able to do, should it come to that?
Well, we don't sit around with capacity for additional homeless people. So we'll have to create it, whether, it's finding temporary shelters, whatever else we need to do to find space for people. We will do our best to manage it. We would also prefer that people not be outside in the encampments, but be inside. But that hasn't stopped us from having encampments as well. There are a few of those that even we have. So not everybody will go inside if you offer them the opportunity to go inside. But we'll do everything we can to try to work our way through it. It's sort of the nature of governing. You don't always anticipate the worst thing in the world happening to you, but if it does happen, you don't have much choice but to deal with it. So we'll deal with it.
Gotcha. And so just to make sure I'm characterizing what you said correctly, it's your understanding that the District of Columbia, yes, they are sort of monitoring these encampments being cleared, but it's your understanding that they are trying to place people internally and not necessarily there's no effort by the federal government or DC to move them outside of the district. Did I hear you correctly?
Absolutely, absolutely. Nobody is driving them through our border and saying cross the DC line.
Thank you for your time.
We've been told that DC has actually opened about 200 additional beds within their capacity for individuals to come indoors. And we've actually been doing in Montgomery County daily census measurements of our shelters to get a good handle of what we are seeing on the ground. And I know that Christine Hong, our director of the Services Center to Prevent Homelessness, is on the call if she wants to elaborate any further.
Yes, we've been tracking the data closely, both at the emergency shelter level, but also from our street outreach providers and our diversion team, as well as the crisis center. And we haven't seen a significant increase in the number of people coming from the district. And so we're watching those numbers daily and we're preparing if we need to have any type of expansion in services.
Thank you.
Thank you. Suzanne Pollack, I see you have your hand up again. Go ahead.
Yes, me. Mr. Elrich, I was just wondering if you had any comment on the MOVE Act that the grants that go out in the county. It seems like they've been awarding grants on a regular basis, but the office vacancy rate it continues to increase. It's the latest number I heard was 18.7%. So it seems to have increased. And I was just wondering if you think the money is well spent.
Yeah, I think the money goes to people who are actually moving in. So if we weren't having programs to try to bring people in here, there would be more office vacancies. You know, these are all given to companies that say we're going to open up and we're going to bring X number of people here. You get your grant based on the number of people you bring here. We're dealing with what everybody else is dealing with, is, you know, a shrinking economy, the damage being done to DC by the president. I think it'd be unrealistic, given the layoffs and given what's happening with the industries that supported the federal government that no longer have contracts. It would be naive to think you're going to get anything but an increase in vacancy.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Suzanne. Members of the media, no more questions this afternoon? Going once, twice? I guess we're done. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.